Our Lord 2019. Hope you're well wherever you are. I've got my coffee here. I hope you have some coffee or Coca-Cola or some kind of beverage to kick back with. It's lunchtime on Thursday, which is always time for Towers Take Live on Facebook. And I am here to answer your questions and serve you in terms of what you want to know about what's going on in the Bulldog Nation at this very moment. Um, Being June 13th, 2019, that means that we are just 79 days away from kickoff against Vanderbilt. So, it really is the dog days of summer as we count those down between Georgia's now and Georgia's opener against Vanderbilt. That's going to be a fun one, a night game in Nashville. Can't wait for that. And then, of course, that means it's just 48 days. The preseason camp opens. Georgia always opens her camp about exactly 1 month before the opener. You have 1 month to get in 28 practices. Georgia typically doesn't use them all, but right at that. And so that clock will start. Of course, it also means it's only 32 days to SEC Media Days, which has kind of become the unofficial kickoff for football when all us scribes and media types gather again in Birmingham to hear propaganda from the coaches and players of the SEC. That's just 32 days away. And then, of course, it's 0 days away from Dog Nation Days of Summer. That's going on this evening, tonight. You can join Brandon Adams and Jeff Sentell and all the stars in the Dog Nation spectrum down at Callaway Gardens tonight. And there'll be another one later this year, later this summer up at Brasstown Valley. We hope a bunch of you if you're not headed out that way already, will be headed that way soon. There's a VIP event there that starts at 5 o'clock, and everybody will be ready for the party at 6 o'clock this evening, and a lot of stuff going on. Brandon will do his Dog Nation Daily live will be conducted from there tomorrow morning. So that ought to be kind of cool. And I hear there's some golf going on even. So great time for that. It's been a wonderful 24 hours weather-wise. I don't know how cool or hot it's going to be in Callaway, but I know the weather's very nice and everybody's happy about that. I am going to dial up your comments on my Facebook machine here and see what it is that is on your mind. Foremost, probably on everybody's mind, as it usually is this time of year, is recruiting. And Georgia got some good news in that regard today. They got a commitment from a kicker by the name of Jared Zirkel. Has committed to the Bulldogs, and just so you're clear on it, he is a scholarship kicker. He's accepted a scholarship. Hey, Shannon Baker, Bo Rowell, Stephen Carter, Joshua Harris, Dalton Rogers. Let's see. Dalton Rogers wants to know about analyst positions being filled. I got to be honest with you. I don't know anything about that right now. I have not looked into it, but I will. Be sure and share this video so we get as many people on here as possible. We've got a good representation already. Jared Zirkel has committed for Georgia. He's from Texas and a kicker. And interesting, he was recently at Georgia's kicking camp and won the kickoff competition in that. Of course, he's famous, if you follow recruiting, for a 59-yard field goal game winner he kicked last year for his team. Early last season. Big leg, big guy. Going to be interesting to see how that goes. Rodrigo Blankenship obviously has firm control, of the position for this coming season. So Zinka will be pressed into duty pretty quick at Georgia, which will be interesting. Now, don't forget that Jake Camarda can also kick, is a very good place kicker as well. So I'm sure he's Georgia's punter right now from Norcross, and I'm sure he'll be considered in the place kicking competition as well as Kirby is proven over and over, he's always going to go with uh, the best player, whether it's at that position or any other position. So Jared Zirkel is now joined the class of 2020. An announcement he made this morning on his Twitter feed, and that gives Georgia 13 commitments for the 2020 recruiting cycle. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that moves them, or I believe Georgia remains at fourth. Somebody correct me if you follow recruiting closer. Hey, Clay Ware's here. Everybody say hello to Clay and wish him the best. He's dealing with a little bit of a health situation. Former dog, a big dog at that, and he's dealing with some stuff. Y'all give him some good wishes and your prayers. Thomas Perez says Chip Stalks recruiting. Nice. Look, hey, the main reason I don't talk more about recruiting is there's plenty enough for me to keep up with besides, and I don't want to mess anything up. I mean, Jeff Sentell and Brandon Adams, they follow that stuff like it's everything. Now, I'm working on something that you'll be able to read here at Dog Nation pretty soon, and I'm breaking down. It's called, Anatomy of the starting lineup, and I'm breaking down, Georgia's starting lineup as best as we can tell for the August 31st opener against Vanderbilt. Who's going to start at what position, and going to break them down both as a prospect and a player. And it's not quite what you would think. There's no question Georgia's signing 5 stars right and left. Their recruiting classes are perennial top 10 and top 5. But not all those, 5 stars end up being, the guys in control at various positions. They are oftentimes, and you'd rather sign them than not sign them. I can promise you that. As Shannon Baker points out here, 5-star you. Good to see you, Mike Mizell. Good to see you. A lot of people on here now. Y'all pass it on down the line. Let's get more people on here so I can answer your questions. Tyler Stanfield wants an update on David Marshall. That's very favorable right now. David Marshall, he had a much farther row to hoe than we knew from the beginning last year when he hurt his foot, had surgery. The recovery has been long. And talking about that anatomy of a starting lineup, right now, one of the puzzling things is who do you pencil in at defensive end where you're losing Jonathan Ledbetter? And I want to put David Marshall in there because I think David Marshall is the best player. I think David Marshall is an exceptional player. All SEC level when he's healthy. How healthy is he going to be? I don't know. I think Malik Herring is giving him a run for his money, and shoot, the way Georgia is moving guys around on their front, they play almost a 3-man front now, almost a 3-3-5. It's just so different than it used to be. But Julian Rochester can play some out there, and Georgia's recruited all kinds of defensive ends. But it's just not as straightforward as it used to be, where Kirby just loves to mix and match personnel based on what the offense is showing him. And it's going to be interesting. 2 great questions here back to back. Ron Warbington and Daniel Borden want to know any further news on Dwan Mathis. There's not anything new to move that story forward. We all know that was a scary situation, but that's going to be a little while before we know. We never have been able to really get a definitive answer, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that whether Dwan Mathis will be able to compete and play again this season. But I would say right now, going forward, you just got to view 2019 as the year of Jake Fromm and Stetson Bennett at quarterback for Georgia, and John Cedar to some extent too, because nobody's worried in the Georgia camp about Dwan Mathis's ability to play football right now. I know you all are as fans, and that's interesting, but it's just not important at this moment. Travis Foskey says, "How is Zeus looking? Is he up to 110% yet?" Now, Travis, there's no such thing as 110%. And I wouldn't think that he's up to 100% quite yet. Excuse me. I always seem to get scratchy voice when I'm talking to you guys. Zeus is looking great. Zeus is looking great. Brandon will tell you that he's going to star in the first month of the season for Georgia. I'm not quite ready to go that far. He is going to compete and he's going to play. But I remain somewhat skeptical because it will be 1 year exactly on what, August 12th or something, whenever he had his injury. That's when it'll be a year for his recovery. Generally, with running backs, that means you're 100%, in terms of everything that you can do. But whether you can replicate what you did before it's really highly debated in science, and there's a lot of psychology involved as well as to what, like how well you're running and what you're able to do. But the fact is, Zeus doesn't know, you don't know, I don't know. Uh, the doctors don't even know exactly how he's going to respond when he gets out there on the field. Um, Takes a minute, and he hasn't had contact. So he'll get cleared for contact in preseason camp, which I mentioned to you is 48 days away. So in 48 days, they'll have the preliminary camp stuff, which is no contact, and then they'll uh, slowly work him into contact, and that'll be a very telling day when they get Georgia gets full pads on. They go an 11 on 11. At some point, he's going to take a hit or a cut or twist that knee a little bit where he's getting tackled. Remember that his injury was non-contact, so once he takes on contact, then a lot of questions will be answered for for Zeus and for Ron Corson and everybody involved. I'm not immediately sure who did his surgery. I have to check back on that. Um, David Gross wants to know if Dan Mullen wears hairspray. I don't think there's any question. Nobody's bangs stay swooped that way without some sort of hair product. Whether it's hairspray, I don't know. It could possibly be mousse, but that's what I'm here for, is to answer the hard questions. What else? What other questions do you have on football? We're gonna keep it nice and tight today. In terms of schedule, we won't go much past 1 o'clock because I know everybody wants to hear from Brandon. He's the man, the myth, the legend around here, and he'll be waxing eloquent this evening at Callaway Gardens. Mike Mizell, hello again, top fan, says Zeus is a huge running back. He has huge biceps and he's a big guy. He's not that big though. This is the thing about Zeus. I was surprised at this when I first met him. He looks a lot bigger than he actually is. I mean, he's 6 feet tall. He's not the 6'2", 240 back. Now he's thick. He's very thick and he's strong and he runs hard. But he's not markedly bigger than DeAndre Swift, and certainly at this point in DeAndre Swift's development and his development, I mean, they're certainly comparable physically. Now, I don't know if DeAndre Swift can curl or bench as much as Zeus does, but right now I would take DeAndre Swift with the football, first. So he's gonna be great. Good to see you, Alex Dean. You did catch me this time. That's great. Mark Godfrey wants to know a little bit about the booming kicker we got this morning. I can only tell you, the little bit that I've read from our expert Jeff Santel and other places, and most notably, he was just in the Kirby Smart kicking camp. Yes, Kirby has a kicking camp, and he won the kickoff competition. He did not win the field goal competition. If somebody knows, tell me who won the field goal competition. But he won the kickoff competition. He's got a huge leg. He's most famous for kicking a 59-yard game winner at his Texas high school early last season. Got a big kick and got a big leg. Excuse me, I was reading something at the same time. Got a big leg and does a good job. And hey, that's a big signing for Georgia. I mean, defensive line, none of us will argue is the top priority for Georgia overall. But with Hot Rod moving on after this season, it's a really important signing. Interesting that he went ahead and signed him to a scholarship, so that says a lot about the confidence of Kirby Smart and Scott Fountain in Zerk's abilities. So they believe in him. They get a look at a lot of kickers, hard to compare. They're not, you can't compare them 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. You won't see any kickers with a 5-star rating. Um, in fact, I don't even know what his ranking is. It's probably a 2-star, 3-star, or whatever they usually give to kickers. But that does, that's not to be taken lightly. Any kicker that's ranked at all, and is I mean, there might not be a harder scholarship to obtain in Division One Power Five football than that of a place kicker right now, because I mean, there's just not that many. Not everybody offers them. When you got one, for 4 years generally. So it's when you got a good one at least, and so it's an interesting position. So I've got no reason to doubt the kid. Georgia knows a lot better. Jennifer Caldwell Sperlin saying here Zirkle is a great get by us. It is. I mean, you're going to get a kicker. You had to. And I'm really excited to see how Hot Rod does this year. So we'll look forward to him. There's some hilarious comments in here. Y'all go on there and read David Gross talking about Stoops versus Dan Mullen and that kind of stuff. I'll leave all that Florida trash to Brandon. He's the expert in that regard. The new kicker's name is Zirkle, Daniel Borden. It's Jared Zirkle. Everybody calls him Zirk. Good-looking athlete, tall and lithe, looks like right now, kind of like Rodrigo was coming out of school. It's amazing, the athleticism of these kickers these days. I mean, I think if you've seen Hot Rod, he likes to work out with the team. He looks like he could play safety right now. And I think Georgia agrees in some regards, so they toss the ball to him occasionally on some fake kicks, and but he really is a really good athlete, and I agree with what Mike Mizell is saying here that Hot Rod will break records this year. I mean, he's in line to break several records. Number one, he's never missed a extra point right now, so he's already obliterated that record. And let's all pray that Hot Rod doesn't miss a point after attempt this year. But last year he didn't really get an opportunity to be much of a hero from a place kicking standpoint. I mean, that's one of those good news, bad news. If you're using your place kicker a lot, it usually means you're not scoring touchdowns. So we'll see how it goes. Frank DiCarlo pointing out, everyone forgets if Hot Rod hits that field goal in the SEC championship game, we win that game. Kicker is a hot commodity. Yeah, I mean, that was nobody felt worse about that miss than Hot Rod. And I don't know that you win it if you make that field goal necessarily, but yeah, it looked like you probably would have. Here's Glenn Knowlton with another. Let's get the Zamir Bell out here. Lots of questions about him. Glenn Knowlton wants to know: can we expect Zamir to have a big year this year? You can expect it. I would be more. Again, I remain optimistically cautious about this. There's no question that he's going to have a year, right? I mean, that's the important thing. Start at the starting block. He's going to have a year. He's going to play. Now, right now, Georgia doesn't need much from him because you have DeAndre Swift and Brian Herrien kind of handling things at the outset. So either Zamir, comes out and shows that he's just markedly better than those other guys, or it means that something happened to those other guys if he has a big year. So, I mean, I hope Zeus, we're seeing highlights. Michael Carvel is showing you highlights right now from his time at Scotland High School in North Carolina, and he has some unbelievable highlights. But he has no highlights or even lowlights from the college level. So we just don't know. And I don't always, the site I work for is called Dog Nation, and everybody likes to get excited about prospects, and I do too. And Georgia signs great running backs all the time. But I mean, I can sit here and just fill out a piece of paper with all the great guys, great signees that didn't quite live up to their billing, not necessarily because they weren't as good as advertised, just because of all kinds of factors. And with Zamir right now, he's trying to overcome double knee injuries. So, and he's a running back. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this defensive posture when it comes on Zamir until I see it, and that is not doubt about Zamir White. That's just I'm an objective journalist, and I'm waiting to see. I know his accolades. I know his recovery. I've seen every single tweet. I've seen every single piece of video on him. I've seen every single thing. I saw every single thing on Jasper Sanks. I saw every single thing on Albert Hollis. I saw every single thing on Garrison Hurst and Terrell Davis. So you just gotta wait. So I'm excited about Zamir White too. He certainly looks good. And the great thing for Georgia is they're not necessarily counting on him. Yeah, Caleb King, Washaun Ely. Thank you, Frank DiCarlo. I mean, you can go on and on about this. It's just not, this is Power 5 football, y'all. So I'm excited about him too, but I'm not going to step up here on my platform like some others are saying and saying, hey, he's going to do it. He's going to do it all. He may overtake. I mean, you won't see me right one time that he'll overtake DeAndre Swift. If DeAndre Swift is healthy, he's going to be your primary mail carrier, right? All due respect to Stetson Bennett, and he's proven. So that's a good thing. And Brian Herrien, he deserves the opportunity to get every carry he can as the backup and tailback, and they'll have to prove on the field in practice in 11 on 11. Zamir will have to prove that he's more worthy of that number 2 spot than Brian Herrien is. I don't know. Maybe Dale McGee knows, has a feeling about it, but I don't know that. I think Brian Herrien's pretty good in his own right, so we'll see. Wayne Carroll, 5 remaining targets we need most. Now, I'm not going to go there, Wayne. I mean, certainly you've got to get one of these big time tailbacks, but Travis Foskey says, I've heard several times that after ACL surgery, the knee is stronger, kind of like Tommy John. Well, that's not entirely true. It takes a little while. I think you can see with everybody who's played that position a lot. Let's face it, there's hardly a running back in the NFL who hasn't had a knee injury. I think it tends to slow you down a tad, at least in the first year, in terms of overall speed. It appears that can be recovered. I think Nick Chubb eventually recovered his speed. Of course, his wasn't an ACL. His was everything but the ACL. But we'll see. I mean, Lavelle Hughes says here, Brian Herrien is going to be Mr. Clutch. We'll see. But he's going to figure in things. Daniel Borden, great thing here. I didn't bring up James Cook. I think one of the most important developments in Georgia spring practice was James Cook getting back on the saddle because, he had that foot injury. Looking back at it in retrospect on the Sugar Bowl, Georgia had so many key pieces missing in that game, beyond DeAndre Baker. I mean, you had Jordan Davis and the outside linebacker. These guys are significant players, and it really DeAndre Walker. I don't know why I had a brain freeze there, but those guys being out was significant, and he was one of them, and so James Cook being back in 100% at 100% is going to be big for Georgia too, and Georgia's got a lot of ways they can use James Cook and DeAndre Swift in the passing game. Brian Herrien too, for that matter, I'm sure. So we'll see. I got some questions here about Lawrence Cager. Really excited to see what that young man's all about. Lawrence Cager, Tommy Bush, Matt Landers, those big, tall receivers. Georgia needs at least one of them to come through. They're going to have several. Michael Carvel showing you some footage there. It includes Kearis Jackson. I'm excited to see him in the slot. D-Rob, in the slot. J.J. Holloman, remains the man there, though he's your fifth leading receiver. Last year, he's obviously your number one target heading into this season. So there are so many unknowns. That's what's exciting about it. And we're getting down to that time. Hey, before we'll continue with the football conversation, but we're getting toward the end, and we'll have to wrap it up pretty soon. But I did want to offer a congratulations to Aaron Shunk in here. I don't know if you saw, but he was named John Olerud Player of the Year in college baseball. So that's a top two-way player in baseball. Obviously, played third base and was closer for Georgia. Had 13 saves and was a leading hitter and leading run producer for the Georgia Bulldogs this year. And that's great news for him. He's signed with the Colorado Rockies, second round, number 62 pick. And so congratulations to Aaron Shunk. And if you haven't been paying attention in baseball, so Florida State went on and swept LSU in the Super Regional in Baton Rouge, and FSU is now in the College World Series, which starts this weekend. And Auburn is there as well. Those are teams that Georgia beat during the season. And that's going to be really interesting. Swift, Harry, and Zeus, 2,500 yards combined. Now, I think that's realistic. That's coming from Shannon Baker, too. And, I think that's definitely realistic for the Bulldogs this year. Georgia, generally, 2,500 to 3,000 yards rushing is what Georgia's looking for. They're a run-first team. I think there'll be a little less of that. A lot of people here pointing out Pickens and Blaylock. Now, the key on both of those guys is they weren't here in spring. They were late arriving. And there's no question Georgia will immediately get a package in for both Pickens and Blaylock. And I think Kirby made it clear that Blaylock is probably going to be involved in the returns game. But the key on becoming an every down receiver at Georgia, especially with a seasoned quarterback like Jake Fromm, it's hard because there's a lot of site adjustments and stuff, So I mean, you'll have a package, and I don't know whether with George Pickens and Dominic Blaylock, whether that's going to be a lot of go routes or a lot of slants, and that kind of stuff. But a lot of what Jake Fromm is going to do this season is going to be adjusting according to what the defense gives you, and that requires the receivers to adjust as well. And again, those guys will be factored. They'll be given every look. And I tell you what, it'll be amazing. I mean, Blaylock is as much as I want to see Pickens like everybody else. He's the 5-star, and Blaylock's just really intriguing for me because Kirby doesn't comment a lot about guys who aren't here yet. He commented about him more than a lot of guys you see, and he'll be figured into things. And of course, you got the D-Rob equation and Kearis Jackson, who remain kind of unknowns in the slot position. So that's going to be an exciting storyline in preseason camp. We'll be all over. You can be assured of that, the wide receiver competition in Georgia's camp, which, again, is 48 days away, 47 starting tomorrow. So I know you're as excited as I am. We're inside the 5-minute window, so let me get the last of your questions, and I'll do as I told Michael Carvel I'll do, and I'll get out here on time. Mickey Brady says, just a true statement that Kirby and company is killing the recruiting trail. Yeah, that's true. Right now in 2020, they're number 4, following number 2 last year, number 1 the year before, and 3 before that. So I'll have to do some research, or I'm sure Centel's probably already done that research to see, how many teams have equaled or bettered that type of recruiting from a national standpoint. That will be really impressive to see whoever. I mean, you can go ahead and put Alabama in there, and I assume Ohio State is somewhere around that. But if Georgia continues the track that they are, it would be 4 straight top 5 recruiting classes. Yeah, you ought to win some championships, right? not putting any pressure on that guy, Kirby Smart, but I mean, that's his goal, and that's why he's recruiting like he is. He's tireless, he's relentless, and Georgia just got another kicker today. Yeah, Frank DiCarlo pointed out that LSU beats Bama out of the West to see. That'll be interesting to see. Um, what everybody was complaining about the East a few years ago, it kind of applies to the West right now. The West needs to get off their butt, some of those other teams, and challenge Alabama. And certainly LSU traditionally has been a team that's done that in the past, and Auburn, which is a real question mark heading into this season, man. It's always tough to count out Auburn in these type of years. They seem to rise a lot of times about the time you count them out. But that rivalry is really intensified. Any other questions here? Let's see. Felicia Crowder just joined. Felicia, you're just getting here. You're late. That's Tay's mama, y'all. Tay's one of those great guys. So I was telling you, I was doing the anatomy of the starting lineup, and Tay is one of those great guys. Starting inside linebacker, started his career as a running back and a 3-star running back at that, and now he is a starter heading into his senior year at inside linebacker. It's going to be fun. Fun to see. Jeffrey Ross just shouts out to the dogs in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Are there a lot of Bulldogs up here in Chapel Hill, South Carolina? I know there's a lot in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been up there a lot. They got a pretty good Bulldog club up that way, a strong representation. Wow, Miss Hardman is here. Hey, Felicia. Latrivia Hardman is here, y'all. That's our man, Micole's mama. Good to see everybody here. LSU SEC championship versus Georgia, says Ahmad Ricky. That's a great prediction. I need to write some of these things down so we can come back and revisit them in the fall. Look, I'm going to get out of here. I've got some more writing to do. I got to finish up that and get some stuff up and see what see what else is out there. Obviously, today is a big day. You've got the Dog Nation Days of Summer tonight, and everybody's heading down there and getting that party started. And so I hope you'll be able to participate in that event. It's only 80 miles away, so it's 1 o'clock right now. You could leave in the next couple of hours and still get down there and partake in that event. I know they have a lot of fun plans for you. In the meantime, I'll be minding the store back this way. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me through Dog Nation all the time, and I'm here on the scene. So thanks for hanging out with me on this day, June 13th, 2019, and we'll continue the countdown to Georgia's 2019 season, just 79 days away. For everybody at Dog Nation, thanks for hanging out with me. See you next time.